If you know me as a person, you would know that I rarely say the words I love you. It's not that I don't love anyone, because I do. I just have trouble finding the words and saying them out loud. On the rare occasions when I do say the words, I find myself saying it under my breath. Although, if you really know me, you would know that I express my love through my actions. Growing up, my eldest brother Jose and I did not get along, which most of you could probably relate to. We got into arguments and fights without positive outcomes. I was never allowed to enter his room, and if he wanted to talk to me, he would yell my name and I would stand outside his room. I could not even cross the fine line that divided his room from the hallway. However, during the school year 2015 and 2016, Jose was entering his final year of high school and I was going into the 8th grade. Throughout that year, our relationship as siblings changed. We grew to be friends. We started to show each other love through our actions. We both realized that he was about to leave for college and we never put any effort into creating a better relationship. I did not want him to leave without having any good memories with me while still living under the same roof. When I think of my childhood, it's hard to remember any good memories with him. I can only remember that we did not get along. However, that year, he became more affectionate towards me and showed brotherly love. He learned to respect me, and I learned to respect him. Once he left for UT, I missed him a lot because we had finally grown to be good friends. Even though I would rarely say I love you, I would show him how much I cared and loved him by constantly checking up on him on the phone or FaceTime. I knew that me checking up on him was my way of saying I love you and miss you. My other brother, Miguel, and I had grown up being very close. He was and still is my best friend. He's the only family member that makes me say the words I love you when he says it. If I do not say it, he stares at me quietly, waiting until I mumble it. Even though I do not like saying those specific words out loud, I felt like I was going to miss the idea of him making me say them once he went off to college. I knew that when it was his time to go to college, I was going to miss him. During his senior year at TMI, I made sure to take advantage of the time we had left together. For example, we would stay up late at night on the weekends and watch movies, or I would end up watching him play his games on Xbox. It's not like I enjoyed watching him play until 5 a.m. and watching him play a silly game that doesn't have a point. But the bottom line was that we just both wanted each other's company. He would ask me if I could stay with him in the game room so he would not be alone, and of course, being the nicest and sweetest sister that I am, I would say yes because I didn't want his feelings to be hurt by saying no. Just kidding. I always agreed to watch him play Xbox and give him company because I love him, not because I felt bad leaving him alone. Time flew by fast, and before I knew it, he was graduating from high school. The next step was Miguel leaving to go to school at UT. I was happy that he decided on UT because it's not far from our home. Even though I was happy for him, deep down I felt sad when it finally hit me that he was going to leave home. The thought of him leaving made me feel like I was being left behind at home, alone. Left behind with no one to talk to, no one to laugh with, and no one to banter back and forth with. It was becoming one of my biggest fears, becoming an only child. I knew that my last 2 years in high school were going to be very difficult for me because my best friend Miguel was leaving home. The first semester of my junior year was very lonely for me. After having both my brothers' company for so many years in the same house, the house now felt secluded and quiet without them. I would cry myself to sleep almost every night. I missed their company. I missed getting upset because the house was too loud. I missed the car rides, and most importantly, I missed our family dinners. However, since they lived in Austin, almost every weekend, I would get in my car and drive up to visit them. I would go to just check up on them and hang out. I would cancel with my friends because I would tell them, sorry, I can't, I'm going to Austin. The thing is, at that point in my life, I would have much rather spent my time hanging out with my brothers than my friends. Sorry, guys. I would choose them over anything, and I know they would do the same for me. As long as I have my brothers by my side, that's all I really need. Although I know I said earlier that once my brothers left home, I felt like I would not have anyone to talk to, laugh with, or banter back and forth with, it was actually quite the opposite. It was true for the first semester of my junior year, but by the second semester, things got easier. I got closer to my whole family, my grandmother, cousins, and most importantly, my mother and father. I realized that my parents were always there for me, and that I can count on them to fill in the space that my brothers had once occupied. I can proudly say they are now my best friends. I have always heard the saying, actions speak louder than words. I never paid much attention to it, until it hit me. I know it's pretty cliche to say, but I can now stand by that saying. If picking up the phone and calling someone to check up on them, or driving miles from home for a visit, or even just sitting down on a couch watching that person play Xbox is the way you express your love, there might just be a lot more meaning behind it than you think. There are so many ways to show your appreciation and love to the people you care about. Instead of reminding those people how much you care by words, remind them by your actions. In reality, most people will always remember how you made them feel way before they even remember what you said. Making an impact on someone can be done in different ways, but this is my way. Thank you.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, let us celebrate God's gifts in the life of Santi.
The end of summer had finally arrived, and I was ready to begin my freshman year at my new school, TMI. Although I was ready, I was also terrified. I had no clue how this day was going to go, and I was scared that I would do something embarrassing to ruin it. I had big plans for my high school years. I didn't want to ruin those plans by doing something idiotic. I knew that TMI was just a place to accomplish my plans, so I arrived on campus and headed towards the gym to get my schedule. I picked it up with a smile on my face, and I stuffed my face with a few free donuts and headed to class. I thought my day was going pretty well. I headed to my classes and met up with my old friend, Joseph Curry, and we both headed to second period in room 235. The bell rang, and it was time for chapel. And as we headed for the stairs, the first major event of my time at TMI happened. I fell down the stairs in front of the entire school. I completely missed the first step, and my backpack flung over my head, pulling me down. As I fell on the first platform, I looked up to see Joe, my only friend, laughing at me. I was honestly terrified. That memory is now engraved into my brain, and I will never forget it. At first, I hated that me falling down the stairs is one of the only events in high school I can still remember perfectly. I've accomplished a lot of things over these past few years, including 2 state titles that landed me in the newspaper, and I somehow ended up in a Whataburger ad. My picture is also in the newspaper and on the TAPS website, but for some reason, I barely remember those days. The only thing I clearly remember from my first state title was making a horrible mistake that cost us a goal in the first half of the game. I cried on TV with the whole school watching, and Mr. Davis didn't let me forget it for the rest of the year. I'm very proud of the things I have been able to accomplish, but when I look back on my days at TMI, I tend to remember other things, smaller things. Looking back on my fall down the stairs, I remember being terrified, but I also remember Joe laughing at me, which reminds me of all the good times I spent with my friends. Once you reach senior year, there will be a day when you realize how much you're going to miss this place and the people here. I wish I could stay here, at least for a little while longer, maybe even fall down the stairs a few more times. Many of you probably don't understand why I want to stay here any longer. There are many things in our life that come and go, and we don't even take notice. But when we finally do, and we begin to realize how much we love these things, it's too late. As stated best by Andrew Bernard from The Office, I wish there was a way to know when you're in the good old days before you've actually left them. I'm telling you right now that these are the good old days. So take advantage of them, because before you know it, you'll be gone. And as I'm sure many of my fellow seniors have already realized, it's kind of sad. There are many things that I wish I could have done and so many things that I didn't do. The big moments only come once a year, maybe even every few years, but the times worth remembering are the small ones. If I could, I would sit here and tell you all the crazy stuff I have done. We could be here for hours. Unfortunately, I can't, because honestly, some of those stories are just not appropriate for chapel. I'm here to tell you to take advantage of the small moments. Make memories with your friends, even if they only last a few minutes or even a few seconds. They will be worth remembering. I cannot tell you how many split-second decisions I have made that have turned out to be quite memorable, or split-second decisions that others have made that have affected me as well. For example, the time Diego had me hold his steering wheel and merge onto 1604 traffic because he wanted to wipe hot sauce off his sweater. Or the time I threw a paper airplane into an ongoing class by accident because I wanted to see if it could fly. When you go off to college and have to leave all your friends, many of you will sit all alone in your room and remember all the crazy stuff you did with your friends. And when you do, you won't be thinking about that award you won in high school for having an A, or that varsity game your team won even though you didn't even play. Instead, you will be thinking of all those times you laughed with your friends, all those small moments that you never even gave a second thought to will come racing back to you. The reason I tell you my super embarrassing story is not because I want you to feel my pain. I want you to realize that it's moments like those that you remember. I look back on my fall now and I laugh about it. If I would have seen a freshman fall down the stairs and have that terrified look on their face, I would have laughed too. I would give anything to go back to my first day and fall down all over again. My whole life, my mom has told me to take advantage of my opportunities and experience things rather than be locked up in my room. Because when we die, the only thing we really take with us are our memories. My mother has told me countless of other pretty important things. She's very talkative, but that's the only one I've actually paying attention to so far. As I begin to end my chapel talk, I hope that if you've learned anything from this talk, it is that for some reason the steps in the coach stairwells are very small and quite dangerous, so be careful. But also that these years are very important and worth appreciating. So don't be scared to make new friends or speak up and be happy, because before you know it, you'll be standing up here where I am right now and be absolutely terrified. Be bold, TMI. Enjoy your years as soon as you can, because they don't get any easier or any longer. Thank you.